Have you ever wished you could train your mind to think in any direction, to take control of your thoughts instead of being controlled by them? Most people believe thinking is automatic, that it just happens, and they have little power over it. But the truth is, the way you think can be shaped, guided, and transformed. You can choose how to process situations, how to respond to challenges, and even how to reprogram the patterns in your brain. The ability to think anything is not about forcing random ideas into your head, but about mastering the psychology behind thought formation and understanding how your mind actually works. Every thought begins with perception. What you see, hear, and experience creates the first sparks in your brain. But not all perceptions are equal. Your mind filters information through memory, emotion, and belief systems. If you want to think anything, you must first learn how to step outside of these filters. For example, when you're presented with a problem, most people immediately follow their old thought paths: fear, doubt, or negativity. But if you deliberately pause and tell yourself to consider other perspectives, you begin to break free from mental autopilot. Thinking differently starts with awareness. The next step is to understand how emotions shape thought. Strong feelings like fear, love, or anger dominate thinking, and they often trap people in narrow ways of seeing the world. If you want to think anything, you must learn how to separate emotion from analysis. Imagine you're criticized by someone. The emotional reaction might be to feel attacked, worthless, or defensive. But when you practice detachment, you can choose to think of criticism as feedback, as insight, or even as irrelevant noise. By reframing emotional triggers, you take control of what kind of thoughts enter your mind. Another important factor is belief. People think within the limits of what they believe is possible. Someone who believes success is only for the lucky will never think of themselves as capable of achieving it. To think anything, you must challenge and expand your beliefs. This requires exposing yourself to new ideas, new experiences, and new knowledge. The brain thrives on novelty, and when you feed it with different perspectives, it becomes easier to shift thinking into directions that were once unimaginable. Dark psychology shows us that thoughts can also be implanted. Repetition, suggestion, and authority are powerful tools that shape what people believe and how they think. Advertisers, politicians, and manipulators use these techniques to push ideas into the public mind. Once you recognize how this works, you can flip the strategy and use it on yourself. By repeatedly affirming new patterns, by exposing yourself to environments that encourage fresh thinking, you literally rewire your brain. If others can plant thoughts in you, you can choose to plant your own. One of the most effective ways to think anything is to question everything. Most people accept ideas at face value and rarely push deeper. But the more you ask why, the more you unlock hidden layers of thought. Why do you believe what you believe? Why do you react the way you do? Why do you see a situation as impossible instead of possible? Questioning breaks the illusion that your current way of thinking is the only way. It creates space for new interpretations and fresh insights. Another powerful technique is mental simulation. When you imagine yourself in different scenarios, when you play out possibilities in your mind, you expand your capacity to think beyond the usual. Athletes use visualization to prepare for competition. Negotiators imagine different responses to difficult conversations. Leaders think in terms of multiple outcomes before making decisions. By practicing mental simulation, you teach your brain to move beyond limits and think across many paths instead of being stuck in one. It's also important to recognize the role of the subconscious mind. Much of what you think is shaped by hidden patterns formed in childhood and reinforced over time. If you want to think anything, you need to understand how to communicate with your subconscious. This can be done through journaling, meditation, and reflection. By identifying your deep-rooted beliefs and questioning them, you weaken their control. The subconscious is powerful, but it can be reshaped with consistent practice and intentional focus. Thinking anything also requires breaking the influence of social pressure. Most people's thoughts are shaped by the opinions of others. They fear being judged, rejected, or left out. But if you want true freedom in thinking, you must be willing to stand apart. Independent thinkers, inventors, and visionaries all broke away from the crowd. They thought differently not because it was easy, but because they refused to let collective influence define their mental boundaries. In the end, learning how to think anything is about reclaiming control over your mental processes. You must step outside of automatic thought patterns, detach from emotion when necessary, challenge beliefs, question everything, visualize possibilities, and reprogram your subconscious. When you do this, you gain the ability to shape your thoughts deliberately instead of being shaped by them. This skill doesn't just make you smarter, it makes you stronger, freer, and more resilient in the face of manipulation. If you want to unlock more secrets about how the mind works and how psychology shapes every part of life, make sure to subscribe to Dark Psychology and join the journey into the hidden world of human behavior and thought.